If you want to close high ticket deals consistently, I'm talking about 5, 10, 20, even 50K plus offers, then you need a proven framework. Not a proven script, but a proven framework. No hype, no guesswork, a real process that's been used by 8-figure sales teams such as ourselves. And I'm gonna reveal all the secrets and pull back the curtain in this video. And what I'm gonna be showing you is the winner acronym, excuse me, that I use specifically when I was running and leading an 8-figure sales team. And today I'm going to hand it to you step by step and reveal all the secrets. Now, first of all, I have to talk about my sales philosophy here because it's super important. Now, my sales philosophy is this: if you want to be a top 1% closer, guess what? You have to do what the top 1% does and not what the remaining 99% does. So if the remaining 99% of salespeople listen to the gurus teaching all these extravagant little tricks and trades and all this BS, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is this. In this day and age, we are in a trust recession, okay? People do not trust each other as much as they used to. And people certainly do not like being sold to, and they do not like salespeople. So let's just flip that model on our head. We are not salespeople. We are consultants. Because at the end of the day, if you are genuinely selling something that can actually help people or help their business, all you are doing is evaluating as a consultant where they are now, where they are or where they want to be, and if we have a solution that can help them get from point A to point B, it is our job as closers to convince them or show them the possibilities by using our product or service to get from point A to point B. So what I'm saying by that is, it is super important that you do not act super salesy, right? You do not want to come off as the other 99%, right? You want to come off as a consultant that's there to help them, and you certainly should not act desperate. Because at the end of the day, remember, people only buy things from other people they know, like, or trust, right? They might not know you that well, right? So therefore, we're going to introduce ourselves over here, right? And make sure that they do know our history and so on and so forth, right? Trusting you is a different animal in itself, right? If the marketing department did a great job, right, they might trust you a little bit, but that is the hardest pillar to fall. And at the end of the day, to bridge the gap to get them from point A to point B where they are buyers, you need to crush 2 out of those 3 pillars. And the easiest 2 is know and like. Right? The trust factor is the hardest part. But if they can know you and if they can like you, that bridges the gap between where they are now to where you want them to be, which is buyers, okay? So it's super important that you remain casual, cool, friendly, not desperate at all, but also act sharp as a tack in your industry, meaning you know exactly what you're talking about. You can convey that, it comes across the call that way, and you lead the conversation, right? Because if you do not lead the conversation, the prospect will, right? So it's super important that you lead the conversation. Now, let's break down the winner acronym. Excuse me. So the W in the winner is warm up the room. This is the part where you actually humanize, you want to come across as friendly, break the ice essentially, okay? The I is introduce yourself with purpose, okay? You're introducing yourself, why you're in this position, who have you helped, and so on and so forth. The N is narrowing the gap. This is where you figure out the pain points, right? You're narrowing it down, everything down to one specific pain point, and then you move into naming the solution, where you're positioning your product or service as the solution to the problem that they're having. The E is eliminate hesitation. This is objection handling. So this is where you're actually handling a lot of the objections, and excuse me, I just jumped right over here. But essentially, you are eliminating the hesitation, right? You are overcoming the objections. And then you are casually rolling into the close without overthinking that. So let's go into a little bit more detail here. So the first one is warming up the room, right? Remember, your humanization is always going to beat a script. If the prospect realizes that you are reading off of a script or you don't really care about them and you're just another number, it's going to be very hard to get the sale. Okay, so that's why I solidly believe in frameworks over scripts. Is with frameworks, you know the messaging that needs to go across, and you know exactly, how to control or frame the conversation. Now, as opposed to a script where you're reading everything word for word, a framework allows you to have a natural conversation with a person and plug and play the information they hand you into the framework that you have gotten. So again, the first thing that you want to look for here is warming the room. You want to come across as a human, not a robot reading a script, okay? You have to disarm the tension right away. And again, you want to build rapport like you're already partners, not adversaries, right? You want to make sure that, they are your friend, right? You're not working against each other here. You're not trying to sell them something. You're working together to find out what their problem is, where they want to be, and see if we have a solution that will work for the prospect. Okay, that's all you're doing. So you need to ask light questions, personal openers, such as, where are you calling in from today? That's my favorite line of all time. Okay, or how'd you hear about us? Okay, and then you always want to find a commonality, right? If you're asking them where you're calling in from today, and they say Austin, Texas, right? Think of a time you've been to Austin, Texas, or if you haven't been to Austin, Texas, do you have a friend there? Do you have a family member there? Have you always wanted to go there? Do you think if you heard the barbecue is good there? Strike conversation around what they're saying, okay? Find a commonality. So again, your goal here is to turn a stiff sales conversation into a relaxed conversation. When they hop on the call, you have to be super personable, right? It has to feel like you've talked to that person before. Now, sure, some people are going to be a little bit stiffer. It's going to take more time for them to loosen up. But at the end of the day, if they don't loosen up, still be yourself, right? Do not give into their stiff personality. Keep trying to lock them out of that stiff mood, right? And just basically get them to a relaxed point, right? And again, we've already covered this. Try to establish a common connection. So that is the W. All you're doing is warming the room. You're breaking the ice. You asking them a couple of opening ice-breaking questions, such as where they're calling from, how did they hear about us, find a commonality, and then move into slow or just casually move into introducing yourself, right? You have to sell yourself before you sell the offer, okay? That is super, super important, right? So quickly share, your personal credibility and the reason for being on the call, right? So for me, it could be something like, hi, I'm Craig, or actually I wouldn't even say hi, because at that point in time, we're just sliding straight into the introduction. And the way we will do this is, let's just say the prospect's name is Betty. So Betty, before we move forward, I'd like to just introduce myself and give you a little bit of information about myself so you can get to know me a little bit better. So I'm Craig, I'm the founder of Sales Match, as you probably know by now. And my entire focus is building unstoppable sales teams, Betty, because closers and setters, not marketing hacks, ultimately scale businesses, right? And Betty, this all started when I was building my own 8-figure sales team in my previous business, and I became obsessed with hiring the best and baddest team possible. Blah, blah, blah. Give a little two-minute intro there. Do not give too much information, because guess what? People ultimately don't give a crap about you. They give a crap about themselves. So turn this real quick. Again, some things you can hit on here, you got to earn trust with genuine authority and a personal story. Why are you on that call, right? Try and be relatable. That's the biggest thing you want to achieve here. And then you also want to announce any credible results. Who have you helped? What have you achieved? Right? If you've done your homework before the call and find out exactly, why they are on the call, or, what industry they're in, mention other people in their same industry that you've worked with, right? That is super, super important. That will give you some credibility on the call and allow them to resonate with your offer a little bit more. Now, the N is narrowing the gap, okay? We want to find the real pain. If you cannot find the pain, there is no sale. So no gap, no sale. Okay, no pain, no sale. You have to find the pain point, why did they get on the call in the first place? Again, you're not a lecturer, you're a problem finder, you're a consultant, right? You have to dig to find the pain. Why? There's a reason they booked the call. Besides, if their daughter or their little 2-year-old was on their iPad, they found the ad, they watched the VSL, they opted in, they then booked a call to speak with you. If that didn't happen, which I've never heard of happening, there's a reason they got on the call. So figure out what that reason is, right? And again, basic questions such, what made you book this call, Betty? Just curious, right? And where are you stuck on right now? How is this affecting your day-to-day or revenue targets? What have you already tried? Why has that not worked? Or why has that worked? Or why hasn't that worked, right? Again, the goal here is to expose their specific pain or bottleneck, right? Show them how wide the gap is between where they are and where they want to be, right? And then ask them, again, how long have they dealt with this? What have they tried that has worked, right? Because again, we're using narrowing the gap is so important because we're going to use this in the close, okay? So find out why they're on the call, have them, the prospect, convince themselves, right, that they need the solution. Have them convince themselves that they booked this call for a reason, right? They're not just here to waste time, okay? Now, this comes into the second N, which is naming your solution, okay? Here it's super important. Now that we've found the pain, okay, we know why they're on the call, we know what they're looking for. Well, guess what? Now that's given us a great edge because now we know what they're looking for, we know what their pain is, and now we're gonna position our product or service as the solution to their pain, okay? So again, now all you're trying to do here is bridge the gap. Present your offer or approach like a doctor with precision, okay? Because it's super easy if you already found their pain, present them with your solution, okay? So this could look any way. You can mention this in so many ways, and the point here is that it has to come off natural, okay? So you can say something like, based on your current situation, Betty, here's how we can plug the gap real fast as well. Again, you want to be calm, you want to be direct, and you want to be logical. No overselling, okay? That's super important. You do not want to sell the processes or how it works or why you guys are the best. People don't care about that. People buy based on emotion, not logic. Remember that. People buy on emotion, not logic. You want to sell the results. You want to sell the outcome of your product or service. You want to sell the vacation, not the work to get there or to get it done, okay? So that's super important as well. Now, the fifth part here is eliminate any hesitations. Okay, so this is again super important. This is where we're crushing objections. And if you did a great job here in the discovery phase, which is narrowing the gap, right, where you're actually figuring out what their pain point is, you should have crushed most of the objections, right? And again, as a good closer as well, we're not going, this is kind of surface level here, just the winner acronym that we're going through. But in warm the room, you have to ask them questions such as, is there anybody else that needs to be on this call, right? Because then we're getting rid of, by asking that question, we're getting rid of the partner approval objection, okay? Because there's always three big objections. It's either money, partner approval, or I need to think about it. Okay, so real closers crush objections gracefully. And the big thing here is you need to isolate objections, okay? Again, please remember, top 1% closers, they get happy when they hear objections because if you can isolate that objection and crush that objection, the likelihood of you getting that close drastically increased, okay? So remember, objections are not rejections, they are buying signals, okay? And the only thing you need to do, if you get a money objection, I don't think I can afford it at this point in time, Craig. That's when you need to isolate it, okay? So what that would look like if Betty told me that. Betty, completely understand, now might not be the right time. I completely understand, cash flow is the biggest part of our business. Betty, do you mind if I ask you a quick question? Ask them permission, right? She says yes. Betty, besides the money, right? Generally, it's either a value or a smokescreen that I get, right? I just want to make sure, do you see the value here? And let's just take money out of the equation. If money was not in the equation and you had all the money in the world, would you move forward today? And if they say yes, 9 times out of 10, they do, right? Ask them, is there anything else that would be stopping you besides the money, right? What are we doing here? We're isolating that objection. And when they say yes, moving to payment plans. Okay, then you can basically say, okay, Betty, here's what we can do, right? We can put down a $1,000 deposit today, $5,000 in 30 days from now, and the remaining in 60 days from now, okay? Figure out if that's the money objection, we can make it work. Partner approval, you should have crushed already because you already asked them at the beginning of the call if anybody else needs to be on the call, right? If they come up again and they ask you again, well, I just need my partner's approval, again, ask them for permission. Betty, you mind if I ask you a quick question? Awesome. Well, Betty, I know you mentioned that nobody needs to be on this call, so I think I know the answer here, but I just need to ask you, if nothing changes between now to tomorrow and your partner is fully on board, is this something that you would move forward with? Or is there anything else that would prevent you from moving forward? Again, isolating the objection to get to the real root of the problem, okay? And I need to think about it. If we get that objection specifically, a great way to get through, maybe Betty's telling me, well, I need to think about it really. Well, again, Betty, you mind if I ask you a quick question? Sure, whatever, right? If they respond. Well, Betty, just so I can understand it a little bit better, what are you still unsure about, right? Because if they say I still need to think about it, guess what? Call out their bullshit. They're still unsure about something. So just be straight to the point. What are you still unsure about, right? And then they will be, oh, no, it's nothing really. Okay, well, what's stopping you from moving forward today? What would make you move forward today? Okay, anything like that, crush that. That's a lovely objection to get. I need to think about it, right? Because generally it's a smoke screen and you can move into the close. Okay, now again, handle these objections with empathy. Okay, again, you always agree, acknowledge. I totally get that. Just out of curiosity, what would you need to see right now to feel 100% confident in moving forward? Okay, always agree with them, super important. And again, control the frame without being pushy. You never want to be pushy, okay, ever, okay? You just want to ask for reasoning and isolate the objection, but never push too hard. And then the final part to this is super simple. All you do is rolling into the close, okay? Close the loop, confirm the decision, okay? And ask a direct question. I don't understand when I train salespeople how they just cannot ask for the close. And that's the difference between a salesperson and a closer. A salesperson is just a glorified order taker. A closer gets shit done and closes deals, okay? So again, just ask for the close. It's super easy, super simple. I don't know why people overthink this, but again, Betty, this does sound like it fits the goals that you mentioned, X, Y, and Z, that you want to get to this. This is how we're going to get there. Now, Betty, we have two payment options. Mention them, option A and option B. Which do you prefer? Assume the close. Always assume the close, okay? Because if they told you their problems, you've mentioned that you've carved the path and showed them how your product or service is the solution to the pain that they're having, then it is your ethical obligation to get them across the line, right? Because if you genuinely believe and know that your product or service is going to help them, what is stopping you, okay? So get to the close. Again, embrace the silence. Confidence is key. Pause. After you say, which do you prefer? Pause. Whoever speaks first loses, right? You've heard that saying before. Pause. Let them think about it and eat up that silence, okay? Because what's going to happen is that people do not like silence. They do not like awkwardness, right? They are going to speak 9 times out of 10. They're going to slap you with an answer, right? And you're hoping that it's the right answer that they want to move forward, okay? So again, this framework can work anywhere, guys. It can work in sales calls, phone calls, Zoom closing, setting calls, right? And again, the winner method builds momentum. It builds trust, right? And it builds consistent cash flow, which is super important. So study this winner framework. You can plug and play your offers and whatever you want to say, but this is a framework you can use across many different industries, across multiple different offers, because again, it's the messaging, it's the way you say things, right? And again, if you know that you need to hit these steps on the way down before they can buy, you already have, you've already done 80% of the work. So memorize the winner framework. If you have any questions, drop it down below. And if you are looking for top setters or closers and you do not want to go through the consistent grind of finding, vetting, training, calling past references, and so on and so forth, here at SalesMash, that's exactly what we do for businesses just like yourself. We work with businesses that are doing at least $20,000 a month in revenue, and we plug the very best closers and setters we can get our hands on into that organization. So if you're interested in that, click the link below, book a quick call, and let's see if we can help you. But until that time, we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.